From the time we're children, we're told to listen to our elders. Well, scientists have been listening to the story being told by a man who was born 9,000 years ago.
A single bone slept in silence for 10,000 years, until science finally woke it up. When its DNA was read, the story of human history began to crack apart. Origins blurred. If one ancient skeleton can rewrite everything we thought we knew, what other truths are still buried beneath our feet right now? Stay tuned as we explore the ancient skull of the Columbia River. In the summertime of 1996, the atmosphere was lively along the Columbia River, bustling with noise and energy. A thrilling hydroplane competition was happening close to Kennewick, Washington. The boats zipped swiftly across the water, captivating the attention of spectators who lined the shore to witness the spectacle. Two young adults, craving a more panoramic view of the race, decided to wade into the shallow river, feeling the refreshing water swirl around their legs as they observed the boats zooming by. Will Thomas, a student, sensed an unusual object beneath his feet. The texture was not like sand or river pebbles. It felt hard and round. Intrigued, he stooped down and plunged his hand into the murky water. Initially mistaking it for a rock, he soon realized the shape was off. Once the mud had washed away, it became apparent that what he had in his hand was not a rock, but a human skull. There was an immediate shift in the atmosphere. The focus shifted away from the race, the loud sounds, and the thrill. Authorities contacted the local police without delay. Initially, law enforcement assumed the skull was from a recent homicide victim. The Columbia River had washed away numerous bodies over time, so discovering human remains was unfortunately not surprising. All evidence indicated a contemporary criminal act, at least initially. The perspective shifted once forensic anthropologist James Chatters entered the picture. Upon analyzing the skull, he immediately detected discrepancies with the initial assumption. It was evident that the skull did not belong to a recently deceased individual. The bone itself revealed a different narrative through its characteristics, texture, and overall appearance. Chatters sensed that the skull was ancient, much older than originally believed. In the days that came after, scientists meticulously dug up the land next to the river. Gradually, bit by bit, the remaining parts of the skeleton were revealed. What came to light from the ground only added to the mystery. The skeleton was of a man who was approximately 5 feet 9 inches tall. His bones told a story of a difficult life. There were indications of numerous injuries, including mended fractures that indicated he had endured severe physical injuries on multiple occasions. The right hip bone revealed the most surprising finding: a stone projectile point embedded deeply in the bone. This was not a result of a contemporary weapon, but rather a spear point made of stone. The man had been targeted with a primitive weapon, yet managed to survive the attack as the bone had healed around it. This particular aspect showcased a tale of resilience, perseverance, and conflict. The stone tip was classified as a cascade tip, a weapon used by ancient hunters in the past. This discovery indicated that the remains were very ancient. However, the real surprise came when James Chatters examined the skull in more detail and found that its shape was unexpected. The skull had a lengthy and slender shape, along with a forward-facing face and a prominent, defined chin. These characteristics differed from the typical traits found in present-day Native American communities. Rather, the skull bore a resemblance to features commonly associated with Polynesian or even European ancestry. This revelation left the scientists feeling puzzled and unsettled. The skull contradicted the narrative they thought they knew. In order to acquire answers, it was necessary to determine a date. A tiny bone specimen was dispatched to the University of California to undergo radiocarbon analysis. There was a tense anticipation for the outcomes among all those involved. The revelation that followed was truly remarkable. It was determined that the skeleton dated back to a period ranging from 9,300 to 9,600 years ago. The discovery revealed that the man had resided and passed away near the Columbia River over 9 millennia ago. He was one of the oldest and most intact human remains found in North America. The extraordinary aspect of the finding was not only his age, but also his physical characteristics, which added a deeper significance. Based on conventional wisdom, the individuals residing in that area in the past were expected to exhibit characteristics resembling today's Native American communities. However, The skull discovered contradicted those assumptions and challenged prevailing beliefs about the original inhabitants of the continent. The unearthing of these remains went beyond mere skeletal findings. It delved into themes of personal identity, historical significance, and the timeless essence of humanity. The man's existence, characterized by hardship and perseverance, reflected a remarkable inner strength and adaptability. Though his skull remained mute, it held a compelling presence that prompted profound inquiries demanding attention. Who was this man? Where did his people come from? How did they reach this land so long ago? Let's dive deeper. The battle over the Ancient One. Initially, a lot of individuals viewed the finding as solely related to science, perceiving it as yet another ancient skeletal remains that could provide insights into the remote history. However, their assumption turned out to be incorrect. This uncovering swiftly evolved into a more significant issue. It transformed into a complex legal and political conflict that resonated with the core of Native American identity in America. Soon after discovering the age of the skeleton, a significant shift occurred. 5 distinct Native American tribes united in a collective effort. These tribal groups included the Umatilla, Yakima, Nez Perce, Wanapum, and Colville. Together, they submitted a joint request under the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act. This legislation was enacted with the aim of safeguarding Native American burial locations and ensuring the return of ancestral remains to their appropriate communities. The tribes urgently requested the prompt repatriation of the ancient remains. They referred to the individual as the Ancient One. As per their spoken accounts, their community has resided in the Columbia Basin from ancient times. They viewed this set of bones not as a puzzle or a specimen for study, but as a forefather. In their perspective, he was a part of their land and lineage. They insisted on his proper return to the ground with honor, attentiveness, and reverence. The land where the skeleton was discovered belonged to the United States Army Corps of Engineers. Upon receiving the claim from the tribe, they sided with the tribes and immediately halted all ongoing scientific investigations. All testing and examination activities were ceased, and the focus shifted to making the remains ready for retirement. The tale did not conclude at that point. A team of 8 esteemed anthropologists came forward. These were highly regarded researchers, among the most knowledgeable in the field of American archaeology. They brought a legal case to federal court in an attempt to prevent the skeleton from being returned. Their reasoning was straightforward yet compelling. They questioned the ability to establish a connection between this individual and modern tribes without permitting scientific examination. They highlighted various crucial details. The bone structure did not resemble that of present-day Native American groups. The fossils were exceptionally old. Above all, they emphasized that there had been no DNA analysis conducted. They contended that without this proof, verifying any direct genetic lineage was unattainable. The scientists were motivated by a quest for truth and understanding, rather than a desire to disrespect. They were concerned that burying the remains without examination would prevent valuable insights into the identity of the first inhabitants of the Americas. Their goal was to uncover the true identity of the man and gain knowledge from studying his bones and DNA. The situation gained widespread attention across the country in no time at all. The legal battle dragged on for close to a decade. Throughout this extended duration, the remains were kept in a secure storage area within a museum. He gained global recognition under the name Kennewick Man. Researchers were prohibited from handling him. No further examinations were permitted. The indigenous tribes conducted rituals and persisted in their requests for his repatriation. The press closely monitored each development as it unfolded. The situation evolved into a heated argument. Scientists were advocating for the advancement of knowledge and exploration, while Native American tribes were advocating for recognition of their heritage, customs, and sacred privileges. It became more than just a matter of skeletal remains. It became a battle between science, faith, heritage, and fairness. In the year 2004, the court made a decision after a lengthy process. The judge sided with the scientists, stating that a definitive cultural connection between the skeleton and present-day tribes was not established through scientific investigation. As a result, the remains were not able to be returned at that time. Despite the court decision, conducting research remained challenging for scientists. They were bound by stringent regulations that required approval for every test and justification for every sample used. There was no room for flexibility as they handled the skeleton with utmost caution. DNA analysis, considered as the crucial test, was still off-limits due to the preciousness of the bones and the potential harm it may cause. Consequently, the mystery surrounding the genetic history of Kennewick Man continued to be unresolved within his ancient remains. Time went by, and the quietness persisted, with no definite solutions in sight. However, the world was in a constant state of evolution. Progress in technology continued to move forward, and while the remains remained undisturbed, innovative approaches were being created. The field of science is always in motion, even in moments when the past appears stagnant, and in a stroke of luck, something happened. Stay with us. When the bones finally spoke. In 2015, science had a significant breakthrough, with DNA technology becoming incredibly accurate and meticulous. Researchers were able to collect genetic material from minuscule bone samples without causing harm, leading to the reopening of a long-shut door in scientific advancement. A group of researchers, headed by geneticist Eske Willerslev from the University of Copenhagen and collaborating with the University of Chicago, sought approval to re-examine the ancient remains. Their objective was straightforward: to conduct a thorough genetic analysis on Kennewick Man. Following extensive deliberation and scrutiny, approval was eventually received. Only a small piece of bone from Kennewick Man's hand was made available to the scientists. This tiny fragment held a significant weight of importance. Taking great caution, the team handled it delicately. In pristine, sanitized environments, they handled the bone with meticulous care, fearing it would break with the slightest contact. The bone fragment was over 9 millennia old, and any slight error could result in irreversible damage. They aimed to examine 2 DNA variants. One was mitochondrial DNA, tracing ancestry through the maternal line. The other was nuclear DNA, containing the complete genetic information of an individual. By analyzing both types, they hoped to resolve long-standing disputes and controversies. Ancient genetic material is very delicate and can easily deteriorate into small pieces as time goes by. Modern DNA can easily disrupt or pollute it. The results could be compromised by just one skin cell from a scientist. It was essential to meticulously manage every action, every exhalation, and every area. Conducting this work demanded patience, concentration, and reverence. After the genetic sequence was put together, scientists compared the findings with DNA information from various populations globally. The outcome shocked the scientific world. The conclusion was definitive and impossible to deny. Kennewick Man is of Native American descent. The mitochondrial DNA of the ancient man found in the Columbia River Basin was identified as belonging to the D4H3A haplogroup, which is unique to indigenous populations in the Americas. It was conclusively established that he did not have European or Polynesian ancestry, but was indeed of Native American descent. However, the narrative did not conclude at that point. Upon further investigation, researchers made a surprising discovery. Kennewick Man's genetic lineage did not align with the modern tribes of the Pacific Northwest that initially laid claim to him. Rather, his DNA indicated closer ties to Native American populations in Central and South America, as well as specific plateau tribes. The findings unveiled a perplexing and unexpected pattern. A groundbreaking finding was made through a thorough genetic examination. Kennewick Man possessed incredibly old genetic characteristics. His ancestry diverged from other Native American groups soon after the initial human arrival in the Americas. His community belonged to the first group of immigrants to enter the continent. This discovery completely altered the course of things. For years, people were puzzled and argued over the unusual structure of his skull. Many thought he belonged to a different group due to his elongated head and prominent chin. However, DNA analysis revealed that these physical traits did not indicate a separate ancestry, but rather a long history. The original indigenous people of America had a different appearance compared to present-day Native Americans. Physical characteristics transformed over the course of thousands of years. The evolution of broader faces, unique cheekbones, and other recognizable traits occurred gradually as a result of adaptation. Kennewick Man and his community were of Native American descent genetically, yet they displayed distinct physical differences due to belonging to a more ancient era in human development. Their looks resembled the ancient Asian populations that migrated to the Americas initially, but this did not imply that they were strangers. Rather, it signified that they were the originators. Many individuals had long held the mistaken belief that the migration of Native Americans occurred through a single group crossing the Bering Land Bridge. However, this new finding has revealed a more intricate and diverse narrative, dismantling the previously accepted simplistic explanation. There were numerous instances of people moving from one place to another in different waves. Populations experienced fluctuations where they decreased and then increased again. Extended periods of being cut off from others were eventually replaced by transformations. Bodies underwent adjustments, facial features evolved, and civilizations developed throughout many millennia. But stick around, this is the most shocking part: the lost people hidden inside his DNA. Despite uncovering Kennewick Man's ancestry through DNA analysis, the narrative did not draw to a close. Delving further into his genetic makeup unearthed a disturbing revelation that initially evaded detection. Researchers, eager to solve the primary mystery, nearly overlooked this hidden secret. Hidden in his genetic code was an aberration. Scientists discovered a distinct element in Kennewick Man's DNA when compared to present-day Native American groups. This element was subtle yet tangible, indicating a genetic imprint from a now extinct ancestral population. This signature suggested the presence of a group that thrived in ancient America, but has since disappeared without leaving any living heirs. The human genome functions as a vast repository of ancestral memories. Each group that contributes to a person's lineage leaves a unique imprint, similar to inherited fingerprints etched in the DNA. By deciphering these genetic patterns, researchers can uncover the origins of individuals and analyze the intermingling of diverse populations. Modern Native American communities possess genetic markers that can be traced back to early populations in North Eurasia and East Asia. These diverse groups intertwined in Siberia centuries ago before venturing into Alaska and eventually populating the Americas. Extensive research has been conducted on this narrative, and it is generally acknowledged within the scientific community. However, the DNA of Kennewick Man contained an additional element. An unfamiliar genetic element was identified, diverging from all current populations. Its antiquity surpassed that of others, presenting a unique and unusual characteristic. This anomaly was not traceable to modern human interference. Repeatedly exhibiting distinct presence in particular sections of the chromosomes, its composition displayed evident genetic lineage. This element remained unwavering, coherent, and unquestionably authentic. Researchers have assigned a temporary label to this mysterious lineage, dubbing it as Population Y. Population Y is currently unassociated with any existing group. However, it was evidently a factor in the genetic composition of Kennewick Man. Extensive examination revealed that this unidentified population accounted for approximately 2 to 4% of his overall lineage. While this percentage may seem minimal, it holds significance in genetic contexts. Next came the most unsettling part. The distinctive Population Y marker was most evident in the oldest ancient genomes. As researchers examined more recent Native American populations, the indication became less prominent. In present-day Native Americans, the signal has all but disappeared. This indicates that Population Y did not persist as a distinct group. They experienced an unexpected event. It is possible that they have become extinct completely. It is possible that they have merged with other communities through intermarriage. Alternatively, a more extreme event may have obliterated their presence from the genetic data. The genetic material does not provide straightforward solutions. It only indicates their disappearance. A particularly disturbing hypothesis caught the attention. It suggested that Population Y may have been the original inhabitants of America, arriving on the continent many millennia before the predecessors of today's Native Americans. These early settlers thrived and expanded throughout the land long before their existence was documented in history. Later on, a significant migration wave passed through the Bering Land Bridge approximately 15,000 years ago. The newcomers did not enter a deserted territory. Based on genetic findings, they came into contact with Population Y. Interaction, blending, and coexistence occurred between the two groups, at least temporarily, and suddenly population Y disappeared. Their DNA indicates that they did not persist as a distinct line. With each generation, their genetic influence diminished. Some factors led to their exclusion from the narrative of existing individuals. This revelation sparked a subtle yet unsettling inquiry. What became of them? Did they blend slowly with the new arrivals until they disappeared completely? Were they marginalized and compelled to seek refuge in inhospitable places? Or did they perish due to sickness, war, or adversity? Let's find out. One skeleton, new history. The unearthing of Kennewick Man compelled researchers to confront evidence that had been overlooked for decades. The conventional narrative of early human settlement in the Americas appeared straightforward and uncomplicated for a considerable time. It was ingrained, reiterated, and scarcely challenged. As per this traditional belief, humans migrated from Siberia by way of the Bering Land Bridge approximately 15 millennia ago. They trailed behind massive creatures such as mammoths and bison through a passageway devoid of ice. Subsequently, they rapidly dispersed across the terrain, eventually arriving at the southernmost point of South America within just a couple of thousand years. The theory known as Clovis first gained prominence, named after unique stone tools known as Clovis points that were discovered at numerous locations throughout North America. These tools were long thought to signify the earliest inhabitants of the Americas, creating a narrative that was widely accepted and comforting to many. Next, Kennewick Man made an appearance. He found it difficult to conform to the straightforward timeline because of his advanced age and unique characteristics. His age alone was a challenge to the established norms. His distinct physical appearance prompted further inquiries. Moreover, he was not the sole issue with the traditional narrative. Archaeologists have made significant discoveries in various locations in the Americas in the last 3 decades that contradict the Clovis first theory. Monteverde in Chile stands out as one of the most well-known sites, with evidence indicating it dates back around 14,500 years. This finding directly contradicts the notion that humans arrived only 15,000 years ago and quickly migrated south. Other platforms heighten the unease of the narrative. Florida, Texas, and Oregon all indicate human activity from an earlier time period. Certain clues indicate that individuals inhabited the Americas around 16,000 years ago, while other evidence hints at dates reaching back as far as 20,000 years. Each fresh revelation extended the historical timeline even further into the past. What added to the concern about these sites was not only their antiquity, but also the contents they held within. Numerous early sites did not exhibit Clovis tools, but instead revealed various types of stone tools, diverse hunting techniques, and distinct lifestyles. These individuals seemed to lack a uniform way of life, suggesting that multiple groups with distinct cultures coexisted in the Americas simultaneously. Certain groups were distant from each other by significant distances. It is possible that some groups were distant from each other by many generations. It did not appear to be a straightforward migration followed by a single culture. Instead, it seemed intricate, multifaceted, and profoundly human. Another concept began to gain traction, eventually being labeled as the theory of coastal migration. Recent findings indicate that the first inhabitants of America may not have journeyed through a glacial passageway as previously believed. It is now speculated that they followed the Pacific shoreline, possibly utilizing boats to cross from Asia to Alaska, before continuing their migration southwards towards California and beyond. This hypothesis offers insight into the rapid colonization of South America and the abundance of archaeological sites along ancient coastlines. However, this theory had an unexpected twist. Navigating by boat demands expertise in planning, navigating, and understanding the ocean. Historically, there was skepticism regarding the idea that ancient humans possessed such advanced maritime skills. The coastal migration theory challenged researchers to reassess the capabilities of Paleolithic individuals. Kennewick Man seamlessly blended into this updated and more intricate portrayal. He was discovered close to the Columbia River, a vital waterway in the area. Rivers serve as essential means of sustenance, offering food, transportation, and valuable materials. It is probable that his community relied heavily on fishing rather than solely hunting on land. This lifestyle was well suited to a culture based near the coast or along rivers. His genetic distinctiveness further reinforced this concept. His lineage seemed to align with a primitive group that migrated in a distinct manner compared to later populations residing inland. It is possible that they journeyed alongside bodies of water instead of icy terrain. They could have settled earlier and adopted lifestyles that eventually evolved or vanished. Kennewick Man did not obliterate the past. He enriched it. When the bones were silenced, the Kennewick Man case evolved from a scientific issue to a power struggle lasting almost 20 years. It became a fight for authority regarding the narrative, the remains, and the interpretation of history. Originally a mere archaeological find, it transformed into a contemporary conflict rife with unease and anxiety. Ultimately, the core of the dispute did not revolve around a single skeleton, but was centered on a broader issue. The main focus was on the prioritization of physical evidence or cultural customs when they conflict. This underlying question lingered subtly in the background of every legal decision, demonstration, and academic publication. Following the DNA analysis conducted in 2015, which established a genetic link between Kennewick Man and present-day Native American communities, the government responded promptly. The findings indicated a consistent ancestry, leading to the eventual resolution of the lengthy legal battle. By 2016, a specific law was enacted by Congress mandating the repatriation of the remains to a group of tribal entities. Kennewick Man was laid to rest a year later, in the year 2017. The burial ceremony occurred discreetly somewhere along the Columbia River. The specific location was kept confidential, and no indication of the burial site was given. The tribes referred to him as the Ancient One as they returned him to the ground. Many individuals reached the conclusion of the narrative. However, it did not happen for scientists. The DNA research provided a solution for a particular inquiry, yet it led to numerous additional questions. The mysterious population Y mentioned in his genetic makeup begged the question of their origins. The varying physical characteristics of the earliest American skeletons sparked curiosity about the evolution of populations over time. There was also an interest in uncovering how many other ancient remains were being neglected due to various reasons like apprehension, influence, or political motives. There exists a multitude of uncomfortable truths that we must acknowledge. In various regions of the Americas, ancient human remains have been unearthed, examined briefly, and then stored away. The Spirit Cave Man in Nevada is over 10,600 years old. In California, the Arlington Springs woman dates back approximately 13,000 years. The Lucia woman in Brazil lived around 11,500 years ago. All of these individuals share a similar fate. These ancient individuals have a unique appearance compared to later groups, and they possess a genetic link to present-day Native Americans, along with an additional element that is no longer present in current populations. The design is too noticeable to overlook. The first inhabitants of America were not a homogeneous group, but rather a diverse mix of people with varying physical characteristics and genetic backgrounds. They arrived at different points in time and adopted different lifestyles. Some settled down permanently, while others adapted or eventually disappeared. Discussing the variety and the origins of the first Americans has become increasingly challenging. Any notion that challenges the traditional narrative is met with swift criticism, being branded as risky, disrespectful, or detrimental. Even inquiries from the scientific community are viewed with suspicion and seen as potential dangers. There is now an absence of sound. It was not a premeditated concealment. It was not a confidential gathering in secret. Instead, it was a collective choice to skirt around specific inquiries, to cease pursuing certain leads, to disregard certain aspects of history in fear of unsettling revelations. The epic tale of one of mankind's most remarkable expeditions is still shrouded in silence. The DNA of Kennewick Man didn't just alter one part of history. It indicated that the entire narrative needs to be reimagined. The concept that all indigenous Americans descended from a solitary group migrating in a singular wave lacks evidence to be substantiated. The reality is much more intricate. There was a series of movements of people from various places, different groups of people with their own unique tools and origins. The end results varied among these groups. Certain populations thrived and evolved into modern nations. Meanwhile, other communities vanished completely, leaving only a small genetic imprint. Population Y is one of the forgotten communities out there. Their culture has disappeared. Their language has vanished. Their beliefs have faded away. Their identities are lost to us. Their way of life and fears are mysteries to us. All that is left is a faint whisper within the skeletal remains of a person who passed away almost 10 millennia ago. Researchers are greatly disturbed by this understanding. If a population can disappear so completely that only their DNA remains, it makes one wonder what other things have been forgotten. How many other groups migrated to the Americas, thrived for generations, and then vanished without any trace in written history? The genetic data indicates that America witnessed a minimum of 3 significant influxes of migrants, with the potential for even more. With each wave, there came a fresh population carrying unique genetic traits. As these newcomers encountered the existing inhabitants, their interactions were often marked by conflicts rather than harmony. The previous days were harsh. The shaping of it was a result of hardship, migration, grief, and resilience. While certain populations persevered, others faltered. This tale may not bring solace, yet it is a tale of humanity. What do you think about the Y population? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more of these discovery videos. Before you go, watch the other videos on your screen.